Hello, thank you for joining us. This is going to be an on-demand content piece provided to you as part of the 2021 Wyoming Articulation Summit. Today, we're going to be discussing articulation products and in particular block transfer as something that we are developing at the University of Wyoming to enhance existing articulation efforts. My name is Amanda Reeder. I am the Director of Transfer Relations here at the University of Wyoming, and I'm going to share my screen with you now. There we go. So block transfer. Before we get started, I thought it might be helpful to start with a couple of terms and definitions as they relate to articulation within the framework of the higher education marketplace. For higher education, articulation is essentially a formal agreement between two institutions. They tend to deal with either a set number of credits or general program to programs and how these align between one institution and another. Transfer agreements do tend to specify how courses are going to transfer for credit. They also can contain additional information about general education completion, admissions requirements, those kinds of things. The intent is almost always to ensure that a student can transfer without impediment or undue difficulty between one institution or another. The word that we usually hear used is to seamlessly transfer between institutions. Articulation agreements can be between one institution and another institution, but they also can be statewide run initiatives, or they can be multi-state initiatives. The kinds of statewide initiatives that we see today would be something like common course numbering. We do have that in Wyoming. Shared general education requirements. Large state systems like Texas, California, Florida tend to work with those kinds of shared gen eds. Guaranteed transfer paths. Guaranteed admissions into the four-year institution or dual admissions, community college tuition rates that remain in place as the student transitions from the community college to the four-year institution. I believe an example of that would be the mass transfer pathways in Massachusetts, then also reverse transfer, which we do have here in Wyoming. A multi-state or meta articulation endeavor is going to be something like the WICHE Interstate Passport, where several states have signed on and agreed to a certain set of learning outcomes that can follow a student, not only as they move in between one institution and the next, but as they move between institutions from differing states. Articulation products generally are in two different, very broad categories, and these are going to be either course to course or program to program. Course to course articulation is usually not as formal as the program to program variety, but they still may be governed by legislation or by oversight from a governing body such as a Board of Regents or a Board of Higher Education. At the University of Wyoming, we identify 4 different types of transfer coursework. These are going to be direct equivalent. That's essentially apples to apples. ENGL 1010 equals ENGL 1010. An indirect equivalent, this is going to be where a course might come in as an elective. Just as an example, Intro to Islamic Studies, which we may not have at the University of Wyoming, we would transfer it in as an elective, but we may identify that the learning outcomes, say for humanities, the USPH, exist in that sending course, and so we would allow the USP to be fulfilled by that course, even though it's an elective. These do not happen all that often, but they do happen. A general elective is exactly that, a general elective. A course from a sending institution, we do not have the same course at the University of Wyoming, but we allow it to transfer in as college level credit, and it can work towards completing the total number of credits required for a degree. And an applied elective. This is going to be where a course may be overly technical or career oriented and would not be something that would be applied to a BA or a BS, but it is absolutely college level and therefore can be allowed to apply to our BAS or Bachelor of Applied Science, an applied elective for an applied degree in essence. Developmental coursework does not transfer, but you may see it itemized on a student record. It's coded as NA or not applicable. If you see something in either the Wyoming Transfer Catalog or in the WYO Transfer Portal listed as NA, it's going to be something that we have identified as not transferable, developmental. Program to program articulation aligns a transfer associate degree with a receiving bachelor's degree. These tend to be more formal, often include an MOU, and will include a degree completion plan, which is the front-facing document used by the student and the advisors. Program to program articulation include the categories of 2+2s, +2s, and block transfer, which is why we are here today. A little bit on 2+2s, which most of us are familiar with. They are highly prescriptive and formal agreements. They specify the sending associate's degree, the receiving baccalaureate degree, additional eligibility requirements such as GPA. They probably are going to stipulate the amount of time that a student is allowed to spend earning their associate's degree, as well as the amount of time that they are allowed to spend earning their receiving degree in order to stay on track, and other requirements as well. They focus on itemizing a large percentage of the total, or 120-ish, credits required for degree completion, and they allow very little room for error or flexibility, either on the part of the student or the participating institutions. Block transfer is a little bit different. It still is a program to program. You're aligning an associate's and bachelor's degree, but they focus on learning outcomes rather than on specific courses and specific credits. They deal in broad categories, or if you think of fundamental building blocks, and they are identified as pre and post transfer. Specific courses or prerequisites can still be built into the block, but they are ancillary to the real focus which the student needs to complete. These are going to be admissions requirements, general education requirements, major requirements, those kinds of things. The blocks are generally customized to the baccalaureate degree program requirements, but they cluster around two different areas. These are going to be pre and post transfer coursework and pre and post transfer requirements. Pre-transfer is going to be earning your qualifying associate's degree, very important. Your general education requirements, or USP for the University of Wyoming. Possibly some prerequisites for admission or for registration for upper division classes after transfer. Post-transfer is going to be the major and major related courses, residency requirements, and that might include upper division coursework. Flexibility. These are far more flexible documents to work with than our other kinds of program-to-program articulation. For the student, what this means is that by focusing on broad categories, block is going to give them, it's going to be a valuable tool for students from a very wide variety of presentations in the pipeline. The kinds of student behaviors that can negatively impact a student participating with a 2+2 tend to not impact a block transfer nearly so much. These are going to be changing majors once or several times, taking time off from full-time enrollment or part-time enrollment, prior transfer credit from AP, high school, CLEP, military, or another institution, those kinds of things. These don't really negatively impact block transfer and can be absorbed into the overall efficacy of a block transfer agreement. For the community college, this is going to provide a lot of curricular flexibility. So instead of really strictly aligning an associate's degree program with the receiving institution by dealing with essentially general blocks, general education, those kinds of things, the community college is going to retain maximum control and flexibility within their own curriculum. This is also going to allow them to, instead of so closely aligning their program with one receiving institution, they can keep it a little bit more broad, and this may help them to develop articulation with other institutions that might also be of value to their student population. For the four-year institution, this means that they will retain their focus really on the major and major related coursework, or putting their stamp on the student as a baccalaureate degree holder from their institution, without having to really worry about the micro level of general education requirements that they would in a 2+2. And so sorry about that. All right, so now we're going to look at two different block transfer pathways that we have developed recently in this last year. The first is going to be with a School of Energy Resources program, and the second one is going to be with career and technical education that we've been working on, again, over the past year. They're both relatively new. So forgive me for a moment. There we go. This is our brand new, we just relaunched our articulation agreement webpage. So if you're familiar with the older one, it had the scorecard We have reconfigured that into this, scroll down, where we focus on what the student is going to be, regardless of what they're coming into the University of Wyoming as. We're focusing on what degree do they want to have when they leave the University of Wyoming. It's an alphabetical listing, just like this, and they would just click on something that they want to look at. For example, we can go into accounting, and then once they click on it, we itemize the individual agreements by state. So this is one of the block agreements that we have worked out with the School of Energy Resources. You'll see here at the top, it's the University of Wyoming School of Energy Resources block transfer with an earned qualifying associate transfer degree from one of the Wyoming community colleges for a BS degree with a major in energy resource management and development and a concentration in energy and environmental systems. It's quite a mouthful. So if you look here, we list there's 5 blocks that are related to this particular agreement. The first block is going to be general education or USP. That's more or less that a student is transferring with a qualifying associate's degree, but we still do list it because it is actually very important that a student has that completed. We absolutely encourage students to complete their earned associate's degrees because it is always in their best interest. The second block is going to be pre-transfer prerequisites. These are courses that a student is going to need to have upon arrival at the University of Wyoming so that they can register in higher level courses here. So there are prerequisites for admissions, but they're also prerequisites for further study within the program. These are clearly listed. One of the things that we really like about this is instead of having an individual program with each Wyoming community college, you can see here we have all of the community colleges and we have all of the community colleges listed. We know that students actually can take courses at multiple Wyoming community colleges. A fairly substantial percentage of our transfer students do that. So if you're a student and you're looking to take a course over the summer and it's available at a community college online, but it's not available at your local community college and you're filling your gaps with your studies that way, you can still make sure that you're staying on track because we're itemizing how everything pans out in this nice little graphic. Block number 3 is going to be lower division coursework. So, and as you can see, we have a note. Students may take these courses at UW or they may transfer them from one of the community colleges if an equivalent is offered. If the cell is blank, the equivalent course is not available at that community college. Students are reminded that they must meet the University of Wyoming residency requirements as outlined in Block 4. So basically what this is saying is there's a couple of additional courses that you can take if it works for you at the community college. Again, a huge advantage to students. They might be able to save themselves some money. They might be able to take courses over the summer so that they can make sure they stay on track, those kinds of things. Not every course is offered at all or any of the community colleges. So for example, Econ 1300, Oil, Business, and Culture and Power, that's only offered at Western. But it might be that you live in Rock Springs and you can take that over the summer and you can stay on track, or it's one more thing that you can build into your associate's degree program while you are a community college student. Some of the other ones, like the chemistry elective, that's offered at all of the community colleges. So it does vary, but we're, again, trying to enhance flexibility and student choice in this. Block 4, major requirements. This is going to be the coursework that the student is going to be taking at the University of Wyoming. So we have the School of Energy Resources Management. The student needs to earn a letter grade of C or better. That's fairly standard. The student must have a CUME of 2.0 or better, and they need to consult with their advisor before taking a course in another institution. Also, really just good professional practice in terms of advising. The University of Wyoming requirements, these are going to be your residency requirements, your upper division requirements, your graduation requirements. And then down here, you see we have the required major courses. They're itemized. 2 of them you can see here, there's notes that they might be able to transfer. They're going to have to check with their academic advisor. And then they're listed in the more broad categories. And sometimes, as is indicated here, there is a course that's recommended or preferred for a student to take. That would be something for the student to work out between themselves and the advisor. And so this goes on throughout all of it. The effective date of when this document was produced, this particular one was produced on July 14th, 2021. Block 5 is that you do need 120 credits to graduate. There are cases where a student can have all of their requirements completed and might have, say, 115 credits, 120 is required. So this is program to program. It is actually, since we're saying a qualified earned associate, that for the University of Wyoming is going to mean an AA, an AS, an AB, or an ADN, though I think the likelihood of an ADN transferring into energy resources is relatively slim. But so we're still calling it a program to program because it is specifying at least 4 different categories of transfer degrees, but then offering students a wide variety of flexibility with what they take within those earned associate's degrees. The next one we're going to look at is one that was developed for the CTE, or Career and Technical Education Degree Completion Program, through the College of Education at the University of Wyoming. This is a little bit different. Rather than specifying, so one of the things with CTE is that a lot of students transferring into it they're going to come from a very wide presentation, and many of them may be actually engaged in having an applied associate's degree, which is not something that we waive or exempt USP studies for. So we wrote this one a little bit differently or a little bit more creatively. So in this program, you'll see we have 4 blocks. The last one had 5. The first is going to be USP, second is going to be prerequisite, third is going to be courses to be taken at UW to complete their degree here, and then 4 is teaching endorsements. Those are going to be the things that are specifically related to what the student is going to be teaching in the K-12 system. We spell out here students that have a qualifying associate's degree, so again, the AA, the AS, the AB, or the ADN, are going to essentially have almost all of their USP requirements exempted. If they don't, then they are going to end up needing to complete these elements of our USP. So if you have an applied associate's degree, or if you have a prior bachelor's degree, or if you have an awful lot of credit, but not actually an earned associate's degree, you're going to have to do a little bit deeper dive. But this document is still saying, we'll take you however you come, and we will work with you with whatever you have in terms of your prior academic record. We also list out here exactly what transfers or what counts as a qualifying associate's degree, both from within Wyoming and from without, because we do exempt USP for students transferring with qualifying associate's degrees from out of state as well. All right, so then within this is mostly applicable to students who don't have a qualifying associate's degree, or especially in the case of US and Wyoming constitutions, if they're transferring in with an earned associate's degree or qualifying associate's degree from another state, because we to date have not identified Wyoming constitutions being taught anywhere other than Wyoming. So FYS, constitution or government, the quantitative or math piece, and then the physical and natural world. Now you'll see here too, it is recommended or suggested that students take specific courses, but it is not required. So again, we're offering guidance, but it is not required. And if it's not required for a student to take, we're not going to obviously make them take something that isn't part of the curriculum. Block number 2, these are the CTE program requirements. This is going to be the welding or the diesel engine mechanics or the, I can't actually think of anything off the top of my head, but so this would essentially be the content area. That's going to be something that the College of Education is going to be specifying with the student when they're in the admissions process, or we do actually have specific program to program, an AAS in welding, for example, to CTE program, if we have that built out. Block number 3, these are the education requirements for the BAS. Some of these are offered currently at the community colleges. Most of them they're going to need to take at the University of Wyoming. But so, for example, ITEC 2360, Teaching with Technology, that is offered, I believe, at all 7 of the Wyoming community colleges. And we indicate that. So a student can take that at either the University of Wyoming or at the sending Wyoming Community College if they so choose. Same thing with EDEX 2484. Right, and we list that. We also list over here whether or not it fulfills for example, the USPC2 or the USPH or the USPC3. If a student is transferring in with a qualifying transfer associate's degree, some of those matter a little bit less, but we still do itemize it so that the information is there for students as they need it. And then down here, the major and area content, how much the student is going to need to take to get to 120 is going to vary quite a bit based on their presentation as a student in the pipeline. They are going to need to take a minimum of 47 credits at the University of Wyoming, and they are going to end up with a minimum of 120 credits needed to graduate. Frequently, students may have more than this because of what their academic presentation is going to be, but again, this document is designed to, come one, come all. We will absolutely work with you to make sure that you can move forward in your chosen academic field. And then down here, we just have some general notes, degree completion notes. Those are sort of major specific notes, BAS and career technical education, licensure. So that's going to be things that are specific to licensure, student teaching, that kind of thing, and University of Wyoming, which is, again, basically residency requirement, things that you need to get a degree from us. All right, so thank you for joining us with this. I will say, if you are looking to peruse any of the articulation agreements we have, the website for that is uwyo.edu/transfer/articulation. And you can find the articulation page that we looked at, the one with the lovely banner full of graduates up at the top. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Probably the easiest way to get a hold of us would be to email us at transfer@uwyo.edu. And thank you so much for joining us.